Hello everyone. In this lecture, I will take up the concluding part of the well-known dramatic monologue by Robert Browning entitled Rabbi Ben Ezra. Students, this poem is considered to be one of the most philosophical poems written by Robert Browning. As in previous lectures, we have seen that in this poem, Rabbi, a Jewish scholar, is giving expression to Robert Browning's optimist philosophy, that is, his faith in divine benevolence, his faith in the divine pattern of this universe, his faith in the youth and age as two important phases of human life in the design or in the pattern created by God. Let's see what Rabbi says further. In this video, we'll begin with stanza 27. Fool, all that is at all, lasts ever, past recall. Earth changes, but thy soul and God stand sure. What entered into thee, that was, is, and shall be. Time's wheel runs back or stops. Potter and clay endure. In the previous video, we have seen in stanza 25 and 26 that Rabbi is referring to God as the potter who shapes the picture of human life on the wheel of fortune. So all the phases of that process of shaping of the human life, they are important. That is to say that all the phases of time, means past, present, future, all are equally important. So here Rabbi says that if anyone thinks that there is nothing permanent in this world and that one should live for the present alone, so that person is a foolish fellow. He says that as a matter of fact, all that is significant and true exists forever and it cannot be altered, it can be changed. Earthly things as perceived by our senses are subject to birth, growth and death, and so they are constantly changing. But God, the Creator, and man's soul, both of them embody a divine spark, so they are eternal. They live there forever. They have existed in the past, they exist now, and they will exist in future and for all times. As he said, what entered into thee, that was, is, and shall be. So here in these lines he says that God, the Creator, and man's soul, they both of them, they embody a divine spark, and that divine spark is eternal. So both of them have existed in the past, they exist now, and they will exist in the future. And just because of that eternity, that eternal divine spark, they are going to stay there forever, for all times. The time's wheel runs back or stops, no doubt. The concept of time governs things, but it only governs those things which are subject to birth and death. But God, the potter, and man's soul, the clay, which God shapes, which God molds, both these things are eternal and immortal and are not subject to birth and death. Browning, thus we see that Browning firmly believes in the immortality of man's soul and in the basic nobility which man shares with God. In the next stanza, he fixed thee mid this dance of plastic circumstance, this present, though forsooth wouldest fain arrest, machinery just meant to give thy soul its bent, try thee and turn thee forth sufficiently impressed. Rabbi says that God has deliberately, intentionally placed man in the middle of the whirl of earthly circumstances. That is to say that in this world everything is swiftly moving and changing as do the feet and gestures of a dancer. That is to say, amid this dance of plastic circumstances, I'll repeat it, that God has deliberately placed man in the middle of the whirl of earthly circumstances, the changing circumstances. Plastic circumstances is for the earthly, changing, having the ability to mold or shape a formless material, that is plastic. So, in this world, everything is swiftly moving and changing as do the feet and gestures of a dancer. These changing circumstances have the power of molding and shaping man. Man would be glad to check the rapid movement of time and earthly change so as to enjoy the pleasures of the moment, but the earth and the passage of time are machinery, are merely mechanical devices employed by God to give a proper shape and direction to the soul of man according to a divine design, according to a divine pattern. And these circumstances, these plastic circumstances, are intended to try and test man's soul. And the soul being molded, being shaped according to the divine plan and adequately stamped with the qualities which God wants man to possess, it is sent forth to face the other world bravely. In other words, students, we can say that the earthly experiences give a human being wisdom to face death and what lies beyond. The point to be noticed, observed, is that Browning is expressing his deep faith in the way God has shaped human life, the circumstances where God has put a human being. In the stanza 29, Rabbi elaborates that same metaphor of potter and his wheel. He says, "What though the earthly grooves which rain the laughing loves around thy base no longer pause and press? What though about thy rim skull things in order grim grow out in graver mood, obey the sterner stress?" Here he's saying that man's life is symbolically seen as a cup of play, as we have seen in previous stanzas, and that cup is made by, that pitcher is made by God the potter on the wheel of time and earthly circumstances. A potter shapes the pitcher from its base up to its top. Students, I'm sure you must have seen that that very sight, that how a potter shapes a pot on his wheel. He just shapes the pitcher from its base up to its top, and around the base of the cup are to be seen figures of laughter and love. That is what he is pointing out in this stanza, that on the base, around the base of the cup, around the base of the pitcher are to be seen figures of laughter and love, joyous figures of Cupid, we can say, the god of love. And at the rim of the cup appears figures of horror, skulls, death heads. They all form a grim arrangement, as if drawn by sharp pressure, as if drawn by sterner stress. Sterner stress is for sharp pressure. In other words, we can say that man's soul is like the pitcher at its base, that is, in man's youth. Pitcher is the metaphor for the human life, and the base of the pitcher is for the man's youth. There is laughter and love, there is pleasure and carefree gaiety. But time passes and youth comes to an end. Now there are no more easy pleasures, but anxieties, imminent death challenges one's peace of mind. So the topmost portion of the cup symbolizing old age, is certainly inscribed with grim shapes, representing terror of coming death, as if carved with greater pressure and serious stone. But but there is nothing to worry about, for it is God's plan. Every part of His plan has its value. So man should accept old age and death fearlessly as he did his youth. Thus, Rabbi just gives expression to Browning's firm belief in God or in divine power. In the stanza 30th, Rabbi Ben Ezra says, "Look not thou down but up to uses of a cup. The festal board, lamps flash, and trumpets peal. The new wine's foaming flow, the master's lips aglow. Thou heaven's consummate cup, what needest thou with earth's wheel?" That explanation on the human life as a pitcher and the metaphor God as a potter continues in this stanza also. And here Rabbi says that man should not look at the base of the cup, carved with figures symbolizing earthly pleasures, and regret his inability to enjoy them forever. But man is advised to look up toward the rim. In the very first line, look not thou down but up. So man, human being, is advised to look up toward the rim of the cup, symbolizing heaven which lies beyond old age and earthly life. I'll repeat, man is like a cup which has been fashioned by God, the great potter, for his own use. So the man is to focus on the use of a cup. So here Rabbi is to say that God has created this cup or designed this cup for his own use, and at the heavenly feast where brilliant lights shine and the sound of festive trumpets will create a radiant spiritual atmosphere, there at that very time God will drink foaming wine from the cup, and his lips will glow with joy. Master's lips aglow means God's lips will shine with glow with joy. In other words, the human soul is specially designed for God's service or for being one with God. And the new wine, in the fourth line, the phrase new wine, here actually the new wine is man's perfect soul, perfected soul, that finally shaped soul. So man has no need to concern himself about the changing earthly circumstances, the rapidly passing wheel of time. Man is destined to be of use to God. So he should think of spiritual development, not of material rewards. The same note continues in the next stanza. But I need now as then thee, God, who mouldest men, and since not even while the world was vast, did I to the wheel of life with shapes and colors of life, bound digitally, mistake my hand to slack thy thirst. So here Rabbi appeals to God. In the previous stanza, he is just showing his faith in the God's design, and he is asking every human being to have faith. Here he said that here he is appealing to God to give him continued protection and guidance. He needed it now in his old age as much as he did in his youth. He puts himself completely in the hands of God, the potter who shapes man, the clay. Rabbi never mistook God's purpose even in the confusing period of his life when he was affected from all sides by attractive shapes and colors. That is beauty of physical life. And as he went through various experiences and led a dizzy life in the rapid succession of worldly events, tied as he was to the wheel of time. He never lost sight of the fact that he had been created to serve the God. In the last line, he is saying to slake thy thirst. Slake is here for to satisfy. Thy thirst is for God's thirst, because Rabbi is to say that man is shaped as a cup from which God drinks and satisfies his thirst. So here Rabbi is just appealing God to to provide him protection and care forever, because he has realized this very fact that his life is shaped by God for his own use only. So here comes the last stanza. So what Rabbi sings, so take and use thy work, amend what flaws may lurk, what strain of the stuff, what warpings past the aim. My times be in thy hand, perfect the cup as planned. Let age approve of youth and death, complete the same. This stanza comes there as the gist of Robert Browning's philosophy, which has been explained or elaborated upon in the course of the poem by Rabbi. Here Rabbi considered his life to be the handiwork of God. So he places himself completely in the God's hands and prays that he will use his handiwork, he will use his work and perfect it. God is the potter, God is the maker who can do anything. So whatever he wants to do with his creations. So Rabbi prays that God will make him perfect. Amend what flaws in the second line. Flaw is for the defects. Amend is for improve. That God will just remove all the defects. If any defect is there, any flaw is there, God will remove it and God will give him a perfect shape. So God should remove any shortcoming which lay hidden in the material which may affect his final shape, that is to say, and God should mend all defects which twisted him and made him deviate from the purpose for which he was intended, or his creation was intended. The picture on the wheel has still to be completed and perfected for the potter's use. The Rabbi has full faith that God will perfect his soul for his use as he had designed him, and life is an organic whole made according to a divine plan. Thus old age should judge and approve of youth, for it is a consummation of youth, and death will complete life and perfect old age, for it will open the gates to an eternal life. So in this way, Browning's optimism reaches its triumphant culmination in the concluding stanza, and he said that if the man has faith in God, he will just put himself in his hands and fully aware that what he plans is good. So thus this poem gives expression to Robert Browning's deep faith in the magnificence, in the benevolence of the divine power which has created the human life. Thank you.